Sean, actually, I'm not the worst dressed person here for the first time in my life.
Wow, ouch.
These 19 people here have been here for 98 days to be exact. And we had most of you here 98 days ago to ask you, could you really change the culture of Washington? So here's the question. By a show of hands, how many of you believe that you've already changed the culture of Washington? Changed it. Changing. Tell me how.
We've moved it from a conversation about whether or not to cut spending at all to how much we can cut and how much we should cut. We're going to cut more.
I think we've made it more transparent. We've given people an opportunity to truly know the truth.
Now, you're the freshman class president.
Yes, sir.
How would you characterize what your class has done to change the culture of Washington?
I'd say it's 87 independent leaders with a focus on the next generation, not the next election.
You're one of the people who voted against the CR.
Yes, sir.
Has the culture of Washington changed in your mind?
I think it has, and I did vote against the CR because I'm blessed to represent a people who are prepared to reshape and resize government at a little quicker pace. But I can tell you this, I have respect for my colleagues in the freshman class who cast a different vote, and I don't question their commitment to cutting one iota.
You also voted against the CR.
Yes, well, I didn't quite buy into the logic of taking it down to $61 billion from 100. So as I saw it, we were at 39% of really where we needed to be. And I know as an entrepreneur that reducing the deficit is in and of itself an act of job creation. And this sense of urgency, this Congress this year addressing the deficit.
So I want to ask you, how specifically has the culture changed? Because there are millions of people, quite literally, watching tonight that aren't quite sure. How have you actually changed it?
Well, the fact that we're no longer speaking about how much we're spending and what we're cutting, what I think you're hearing here is that we're all on the same page, but we have different tactics. And I respect my colleagues that have different tactics, but at the end of the day, our goals are exactly the same, and that's to dramatically reduce spending and get our fiscal house in order.
You know, I think another big change has been that we don't spend much time talking about how we got here, whether it was Democrats or Republicans that dug this hole. We spend a lot of time thinking about what are the facts, how do we get out of this, and what's the path forward. I think that's a big shift.
Sean, you wouldn't have seen it, but we filmed just before we were here a segment that's going to air this weekend where we had 14, 15 average Americans going back and forth with these 19 freshmen, and it would have made you feel really good. The interaction that they had, the comments that they were making. There is real frustration with Washington among the American people, but it feels like they get it.
Let me give credit where credit is due. I believe they have changed the debate. I am encouraged by that. I do sense from everybody that's speaking there that there is a sense of urgency. I just want to ask this because I think I speak for a lot of people. When we have a $3.6 trillion budget this year, $1.65 trillion deficit, and we can't get $61 billion cut, the prorated rate from $100 billion, and it comes out to $28 billion, I know I speak for a lot of people in saying we're disappointed, and I want to get their reaction.
Go ahead.
You know what? That's a great question. Ask Harry Reid. We would have cut even more than $61 billion if we could. But we have got to deal with a Democrat-controlled Senate. We're dealing with a Democrat president. Ask Harry Reid why it's extreme to cut just a small percentage of the government.
And it comes down to tactics. I mean, there are some in this freshman class that have said, you know, we're not going to cut this until it gets to the $100 billion mark. And there are others like myself that say, hey, I will cut as much as we can every chance we get until we get to the debt ceiling. Because it's all about the debt ceiling.
The truth of the matter is we're disappointed too. We started out, we wanted $100 billion. That was the goal. But we've got to be realistic. And we're only 1/2 of 1/3 of this government.
But this week we start moving from billions of dollars to trillions of dollars. That's where we start this week, to real cuts of trillions of dollars.
So I got to ask you, it's a show of hands. Sean raised a legitimate point. Have you been successful in cutting wasteful Washington spending? Yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a step. It's a step. Here's the thing. We've cut more than any Congress, 4 times more than any Congress since World War II, and we've been here for 4 months. It's a step. If we were saying we're stopping here, by all means, be disappointed. But this is one step, and we're going to keep walking, baby. I voted for that cut, and I'm proud of it. It was the right step, and we're going to keep putting one foot in front of the other until we get this fiscal house in order.
Sean, they talked about the $38.5 billion cut, and it was the most. And in the conversations that we were having before we went on the air, to them, it is a step-by-step approach. And,
well, look, can I just respond to
the whole change?
I didn't know who that was, the last speaker, but what she said is encouraging to me. And what others have been saying there is encouraging to me because I just feel like if we're really spitting in the ocean with $61 billion. I think $6.2 trillion, which Paul Ryan proposes, is great. For example, how do we get the next level of cuts in? Are they willing to vote against raising the debt ceiling, for example?
Okay, let's do it.
I think I am no closer today, and I'm Jamie Herrera Butler, Washington State. I'm no closer today to voting to increase the debt ceiling than I was, 90, 100 days ago, because I haven't seen anything that would cause me to do that. We're here to make a change, and that's what we're going to do.
And neither am I. I'm no closer today than I was when we first got here. We haven't seen the reforms that we need to even begin the discussion on raising the debt ceiling.
Last one.
Frank, I also would say this. The debt limit's been raised 74 times in this country, so it's not a debt limit. It's a debt suggestion. What this Congress can do, if it does nothing else, is quit politicizing it and start telling the truth to the American people. We are on the precipice of a catastrophe.